Coming up on this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
We'll explain how NCBA's efforts in Washington, D.C. help protect the business climate for cattlemen and cattlewomen all across the country. Plus, we've got the latest on the Dietary Guidelines for Americans and NCBA's role in this important process.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Hello and welcome to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kevin Auctioner. Thanks for joining us. One important way that the National Cattlemen's Beef Association ensures the sustainability of the industry is by working every day in Washington to protect the economic, political, and social interests of U.S. cattle producers. We had a chance to ask some cattle producers from across the country about the value of NCBA's presence in D.C.
NCBA's actions in Washington, D.C. are greatly important to cattlemen. NCBA is battling for us for not only things that we do see and hear in the news, but other things that we're not even aware of.
It's really important. You know, there's a lot of us that we're just real quiet, it seems like, as an industry, and I think it's really important for NCBA to keep our voice heard in D.C. Otherwise, I think they might just forget about us.
It's really important to me because I don't want to and can't fly to DC to lobby. That's not something that I have any interest in doing, but I know that my dues are going to NCBA to help advocate for me, to advocate for water rights issues and land management issues, things that I want to be active on and stay engaged with, but I can't do that. Like, I don't have the time or financial availability to fly to DC and do that, so I really value that.
Us as producers, we tend to keep to ourselves and try not to be as social as maybe we should be. So NCBA and the regional associations as well do a lot of good for us, kind of being our voice in Washington and making sure that our needs are met and heard in the greater public.
We as independent cattlemen are limited on what we can do with our ability to make a difference in policy, a difference in government regulation. But when working together through NCBA, we have a powerful voice, an educated and a respected voice that drives policy to help the industry to make us all better.
Every 5 years, the federal government formulates the Dietary Guidelines for Americans, a document that helps inform federal nutrition policies and programs like school lunches. Here to talk more about this is Dr. Shailene McNeil, Executive Director of Nutrition Science at NCBA. Dr. McNeil, we've heard a lot of discussion about these 2025 guidelines. Why are they even important to the beef industry?
They're really important because nutrition is still a very, very hot topic with consumers, and the dietary guidelines, whether consumers realize they follow them or not, very much influence, as you said, what goes on in school lunch, how our military is fed. They form the federal policy on nutrition, but a lot of health professionals really go to the dietary guidelines for thinking about the advice that they give their patients and clients. So they do have a large impact. Food companies use them to think about product development. So ultimately the consumer is touched by the dietary guidelines, whether they realize it or not. So they're critically important.
So some of the initial things I've read have suggested they wanted to replace beef with peas and lentils. Can you tell us where we are in the process and how NCBA will be involved?
The process is pretty lengthy, and the stage that we're in now is the Scientific Advisory Committee. The scientists who inform what those guidelines will be have completed their work. And they made a lot of recommendations, but one of the most significant and concerning recommendations that they've made is to begin swapping beef and meats with beans, peas, and lentils. And it really doesn't make sense if you think about it, because we're already seeing rising rates of iron deficiency in the United States and zinc deficiency. We know you get those from beef, you don't get those from beans. And so I think we're headed in the wrong direction, and it's really important for us to be weighing in on this, and that's some of the work that we're doing through NCBA and the Beef Checkoff.
And it requires more than just a recommendation from a professional like you. It does require research, right? How important is research in fighting these battles?
The scientific evidence is the only means that we really have to get started in this conversation. That's what these advisory committees are doing. They're looking at the evidence. And unfortunately, a lot of times they look at the weaker forms of evidence that blames beef for unhealthy diets, as opposed to looking at this high quality, strong evidence that we have on beef. So I think that's one of the actions that we're taking is really pointing the future administration to the evidence that the committee did not really pull up and look at, which is high quality, rigorous clinical controlled trials where we documented people, you can eat beef daily as part of a balanced diet and see great health benefits. We've got that science. We need the administration to take a look at that science before they finalize these guidelines.
So frustrating because I like to think that science is so objective, and maybe it's not sometimes.
You know, sometimes you can look at it and see different things, but I do think that if you really look at the data and look at the highest quality data, you will consistently see that beef as part of a balanced diet brings great benefits to the human diet.
So tell us about some of that research that's been done over the last year and what you've learned.
Well, one of the things that's actually very relevant because of the dietary guidelines is we're learning that proteins are not all created equal. So the protein in beans is not going to function the same in your body as the protein in beef. In fact, we just completed a study with the University of Arkansas Medical Sciences, and they compared a 4-ounce soy patty to a 4-ounce beef patty. And what they learned is that you would have to eat double the soy to get the same muscle stimulating benefits as you would from beef. And most people don't have that room in calories, and they want to eat beef, and they're going to get great health benefits, especially for muscle. So I think that's just one of the examples we're proving that proteins aren't created equal, and beef is a superior quality protein for the human diet.
That's outstanding news. Thank you so much for your leadership in this area.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me.
Now, if you've wondered or been asked about beef as a healthy food choice, a good resource to check out is the Beef It's What's for Dinner website. There you're going to find all sorts of nutritional information along with healthy and nutritious beef recipes. Still ahead on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll talk about NCBA's grassroots structure and how that helps support the U.S. beef industry. Stay with us.
Cattle producers across the country work hard to care for their animals and their land. The USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service is there to help. Find out how you can work with NRCS to develop a conservation plan for your operation. Find possible funding resources for implementing conservation practices, or get free expert advice on ways to improve your farm or ranch. Visit the website nrcs.usda.gov today.
Join the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. NCBA is the oldest and largest national cattle industry organization working to defend your interests in Washington, D.C. And there are big benefits to being a member. You'll get news you can use in the National Cattlemen, email updates in the NCBA Beef Bulletin, plus big discounts only for NCBA members. Join by calling 866-233-3872 or online at ncba.org.
Being a leader in the nation's oldest and largest cattle industry organization takes dedication, as members volunteer their time and effort to ensure the beef business remains strong and sustainable. We're pleased to have with us Gene Copenhaver, who will serve as the 2025 president-elect. Gene, you have a strong history, family history in the cattle business in Virginia. Tell us just a little bit about that.
Thanks, Kevin, for having me first. And yes, I'm a fifth-generation cattleman from Virginia. We operate a stocker operation with my son, Will. And so we're in the southwest corner of Virginia, close to the Tennessee line. And there where the grass is green, the hills are rolling, and elevation's right for grazing cattle.
Great place for a stocker operation.
Yes, sir.
So let's talk about service to the industry. You've been involved from local, state, and national level. Why is it so important to get involved and dedicate your time to this industry?
The one big reason is the next generation that's coming on the operation. My son Will, or my grandchildren, or my other son. We have to be prepared to fight the fights we need to fight to keep the industry sustainable and to keep things going like we need to see them go. Family operations are the cornerstone of the industry. No matter where we're at in the country, we have a lot of God-given different assets. We do things a lot of different ways in the industry, different sectors, different geographical areas. And it's very important, being from Eastern United States, to have some voices from our area. So that's the main reason, is the sustainability for the future generation.
Let's talk about policy for just a minute, because I know you've been very involved in policy committee and so forth. Would you mind sharing with our viewers a little bit about how the grassroots policy development effort works here at NCBA?
Yes, it actually works great. I can give you a lot of examples being in policy the last 10 years at a national level. Yeah. The policy starts at a local level. I remember a task force I was over several years ago now, and that the policy that the task force started at a local Cattlemen Association in Oregon. Yep. So it came up through the local organization to the state organization, yep, to the national organization. And from that, we had a working group or task force to go forward with that. Yep. So it's definitely starts at the local level, state level, national level, and then approved by our board and our membership. Yeah.
Not something that happens in some sort of closed door room amongst 4 or 5 of you officers, is it?
No, it's an open process for any member to be part of, and I suggest members to be a member and to be part of it so you can have your say.
If you don't mind, share a couple of key priority issues as we think about policy in the year ahead.
Well, the year ahead, as everyone knows, we've changed administrations at the national level. So some of the two main things is making sure what's happened in the last 4 years. We go back and then look at some of the regulations and make sure that some of the regulations get reversed or rolled back. And the big thing is producer profitability. We gotta have producer profitability to be sustainable in the future. And some of the things that includes is make sure our beef is on the dinner plate in the dietary guidelines for USDA. Make sure our tax system's fair, whether it's estate taxes or a stepped-up basis, because we need to find a way to forward that to the next generation. And if we don't have good tax policy, it's going to be hard to forward to that next generation and keep the family operations in line. And that's two of the main things that we're looking for this next year is get rid of some regulations that's been put into place and look at producer profitability, and especially for the new and beginning farmer, whether you're a first generation or a fifth generation. Right. You know my background. I was 40 years in the ag lending business, and I got to put a lot of young people in business, and a lot of them were first generation. So we need to kind of look at a way to keep this next generation coming forward and the generation after that.
I like the way you think. Thank you so much for your service, and we'll be talking to you more throughout the year.
Thank you, Kevin.
To keep up to date on the issues facing cattle producers and to help make a difference in the industry, why not join Gene as a member of NCBA? It's easy to do. You can call 866-233-3872 or just visit the website ncba.org. Use the promo code C2C when you sign up and you'll receive a special gift. Now, when we come back, we've got to look at a great product that's sure to improve both the productivity and profitability of your operation. Stay with us.
There's never a dull moment for the Nelsons. 5th generation Montana ranchers. Since 1868, they've been herding cattle, reeling in trout, and exploring Paradise Valley from their backyard. Here's to another 150 years of adventure. There's a story in every piece of land. Run with us on a John Deere Gator XUV and start telling yours.
Join the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. There are big benefits to being a member. You'll get industry news in the National Cattlemen, email updates in the NCBA Beef Bulletin, plus discounts just for NCBA members. Join by calling 866-233-3872 or online at ncba.org.
At Gallagher, they're always pushing boundaries in cattle ranching. And joining us is eShepherd's General Manager, Charles Liebergreen, and we appreciate the chance to stop by and visit a little bit about the significance about virtual fencing. And maybe for our audience, describe, what makes eShepherd's virtual fencing system so revolutionary in the industry as we know it today?
Thanks very much, Russell. We're very happy to be here as well. Virtual fencing is a relatively new technology for ranchers and farmers globally, actually, and it's required for a number of different reasons. One thing, I'm obviously a New Zealander. Coming to the United States, I've noticed that there's a variation in terms of the quality of fences, and for various reasons, some of those fences need to be replaced. Now, you can invest in rebuilding those fences again now, or you can invest in the most flexible fencing solution that there is, which is virtual fencing. And that's one great reason, but then there's a bunch of others around some of the headwinds that ranchers and farmers are facing today and why they need to invest in technology.
Well, it is some pretty cool technology indeed. Talk about some of the unique features of eShepherd's virtual fencing system.
eShepherd is unique in that it has a virtual line on the ground which is only 6 foot wide. So that means that the areas that we can fence can be very, very, very small, so potentially an acre or even less, and they can also be very intricate as well. Virtual fencing also enables things like rotational grazing, much better grass utilization and things like that, let alone the savings around labor, materials, and just time. There's a multitude of benefits that come along with virtual fencing.
Maybe talk a little bit about how eShepherd contributes to sustainability as well as animal welfare practices.
On the sustainability side, I think there's that's multifaceted. One great one is water quality and the protection of riparian areas. You might have a creek or a stream. Without virtual fencing or even without physical fencing, the cattle are in there, they're making a mess of those banks. The rancher themselves or maybe even an agency of some sort really want to protect those waterways and those banks. So being able to fence them off virtually is a great value proposition. And then even in terms of shifting fertility on the land without the need for physical fences, being able to concentrate animals in certain areas and move that fertility around the property rather than just continuous grazing, which I think has been proven to not be the most sustainable management solution. So it's very flexible.
Well, Charles, now that we've talked about the eShepherd virtual fencing system and talked about some of its unique benefits, let's show it off to the audience.
Sure. Thanks, Russell. So this is an ES1. In the United States, you often call it a collar. We call it a neckband. It has 2 large solar panels, one on either side. And they're charging a battery on the inside of the ES1 all the time as long as there's sun, and that battery and the device is going to last for 7 to 10 years. So it's a very long-lived device. It's going to be with ranchers for many, many years.
Well, let's wrap things up talking about how simple it really is to integrate eShepherd virtual fencing into an existing operation, and of course, the support that eShepherd and Gallagher provide.
In terms of an engagement with the eShepherd team, that's relatively easy. We have a bunch of people based out of Kansas City. The animals need to be trained for a very short amount of time, and the ranchers need to be trained, and they go through an onboarding process. We really like to understand what the customers want from the technology, what is their ranching situation, what do they want in terms of value. And then ultimately, it's really about the support team down in Kansas City. We have a number of customer success people, as well as other customers who are out there and willing to talk to new customers about their experiences. So we try to involve everyone in the family if we can.
Well, indeed, it's some very exciting technology. Again, pushing boundaries in cattle ranching. We've been visiting with Charles Liebergreen, the general manager of eShepherd. And for more details, of course, you can always jump online and visit Gallagher.com.
Still ahead, we'll hear from one of the great speakers that entertained the crowd at CattleCon 25 in San Antonio. Stay with us.
Are you concerned about the impact government policies could have on your cattle business? One way to make your voice heard in Washington is by joining NCBA. When you join, you'll be part of the nation's oldest and largest national cattle industry organization that has a professional team working in Washington, D.C. on issues that matter to cattle-producing families nationwide. Don't stay on the sidelines. Make your voice heard by joining NCBA today at the website ncba.org.
Did you know you can get reimbursed for attending cattle industry educational events? The Rancher Resilience Grant helps cattle producers attend valuable programs such as Cattlemen's College and Stockmanship and Stewardship training sessions. Local, state, and national events qualify for the grant, and successful applicants can receive money back to help cover registration fees and hotel expenses. To apply for the Rancher Resilience Grant, go to ncba.org and click on the Producer tab.
Every year, the NCBA team works hard to bring entertaining and motivating speakers to CattleCon, and this year was no exception. Russell Nemitz caught up to Lieutenant Colonel Dan Rooney, who kicked things off at the opening general session.
Well, this year we're lucky enough here at CattleCon 2025 in San Antonio, Texas, to have Lieutenant Colonel Dan Rooney, a decorated F-16 fighter pilot, author, and a whole lot more, kicking off this year's convention here in the Lone Star State. Sir, thank you so much for joining us here on Cattlemen to Cattlemen and for giving and being here for these cattle producers from all across America. I guess talk about your message to these beef cattle producers from all walks of life.
Yeah, well, number one, I'm in a flight suit, but I was born and raised in Stillwater, Oklahoma, so these are my people. So faith, family, and freedom, bringing us all together to kick off CattleCon. Feel really blessed, excited to deliver a message about purpose in life. And my background is a 23-year F-16 fighter pilot. God put me on a commercial airliner 17 years ago and gave me a mission that I was never expecting. On that flight was the remains of Corporal Brock Buckland, who'd been killed in Iraq, and his twin brother, Corporal Brad Buckland, was in first class. And Brock had a 4-year-old son, and I felt a calling from God to help, and that's really what brings us here. My wife and I started a nonprofit called Folds of Honor above our garage. Our mission unwavering, and that is honor sacrificed by educating the legacy of these heroic military and first responder families who've had somebody killed or disabled in combat or coming to rescue us when we dial 911. And our mutual friends here at Zoetis have gone all in supporting these families. They've donated about $1.7 million to Folds. And so when they said, hey, will you come speak a little God and country to kick off CattleCon, I was like, man, I am in. I've been getting ready for this mission my whole life, and just feel honored to be here.
Well, we are honored to have you here in San Antonio with us. And again, I mean, gosh, what a powerful message, what a powerful mission. And it kind of goes hand in hand, if you will, sir, with the mission of America's beef cattle producers to do more than just what's for yourself and serve a bigger purpose.
Well, they do by the nature of the occupation they have chosen, feeding this great nation. And I said before, if I wasn't in my flight suit, I'd have a big old belt buckle on and my cowboy boots. So I'm kind of in disguise. I should have just worn my normal attire here. Would have fit in great, but again, blessed to share hopefully what is a powerful message, and we're going to tell some great stories. And I would say when I get up here and get to talk for 50 minutes or so, I hope everybody takes one thing with them. Yep. That has a positive impact on them for the rest of their lives. But we got a lot of common ground, because I guarantee you the 5,000 people in here, nobody's sleeping in the morning. So got to get up early, get in the fight just like we do in the military. And as I said, blessed to get to share a few stories today.
Well, again, we're tickled to have you here in San Antonio as part of CattleCon 2025. Thank you, sir, for what you're doing and for being here with us, and more importantly, for serving America in the armed forces. Again, kicking off CattleCon 2025, Lieutenant Colonel Dan Rooney. Kevin, with that, I'll go ahead and send it back to you.
Family fun was also an important part of CattleCon 25 in San Antonio. Here's a look at a few of the activities that were suitable for attendees of all ages.
The NCBA trade show is like a playground for cattle producers, offering the latest equipment, technology, and industry innovations in a hands-on environment. But for little ones, there was a literal playground on site at the Kids Corral, giving young attendees a fun space to play while their parents explored.
It really means a lot to me as a mom because a lot of places, especially in our community and society, they don't necessarily put families first. So it's nice to come to a place where they actively put families first. It's kid doesn't want to just come around and walk around all day. So it's nice to be able to come here and have something catered specifically to families, mothers, fathers, and their little ones.
The Kids Corral gives the next generation of cattle producers a chance to be a part of CattleCon in a way that's fun for them. It's just one of the many ways NCBA ensures the convention and trade show offers something for everyone.
This is my first time here, but after seeing this, it's a wonderful experience, and it's nice for parents. Maybe they could take turns, and one parent could sit here with them. But yeah, absolutely, it'd be wonderful for any parents, any families to come by.
From CattleCon in San Antonio, I'm Brian Baxter reporting for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Well, that wraps up this edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thanks so much for spending time with us. We'll see you again next week, right here on RFD TV.